if you watched my last video, you know that I started my period, which is super exciting because I have only had one period in the past 6 years, and I've been really spotty for the past 15. I've never had a consistent period. And I've been super excited to get my period back because I know it's a really good mark of health and it's telling me I'm going in the direction I want to be going. However, I had forgotten about some of the side effects of getting your period, like really bad cramps and bloating, and my skin is breaking out, and the hormones. Sorry, I'll wait for that motorcycle to drive by. The hormones have been really fueling my ed brain. So it's helpful for me to divide my brain and see that I have this Kim brain, I have this higher brain who wants to be healthy and happy and loving and useful, and then I have this ed brain, which means eating disorder brain, that wants me to isolate and lie and feel ashamed of what I'm doing and just keep turning to food for comfort. So it's really helpful for me to separate those two and hold space for the ed thoughts, see that those aren't mine, and stay in alignment with my Kim brain. And this is especially easier if I'm fueling my body with food and I'm eating without restriction. It's much easier for me to say, Ed's telling me I'm fat, but that doesn't matter, I'm gonna keep eating. When I'm not eating, Ed tells me to eat something, and at some point it's impossible for me not to eat that thing. So not restricting has been incredibly helpful in this recovery process. On my period, these hormones are fueling Ed thoughts so much. And Ed has been telling me this new line of thought that I haven't been thinking or I haven't thought very much in the past. But Ed has been telling me, now that my body is getting bigger and I'm recovering, that I will never be able to get rid of Ed completely. And what would I rather? To live with Ed for the rest of my life but have a bigger body and be unhappy, or live with Ed for the rest of my life and be really thin and fit and the kind of body that I think I want. I put air quotes because I know that's not the body I think I want. That's the body Ed wants me to think I want. And I was really wrapped up in this cycle yesterday, being like, well, I'd rather be in this smaller body if I'm always going to have Ed than have Ed and be in this bigger body. Now I can really see that Ed is telling me these things because me keeping Ed will keep Ed alive. Ed cannot exist without me. I can exist without Ed, but Ed cannot exist without me. So of course he's telling me that there's no way that I'm not going to have him in my life, and that if I want that smaller body, which he keeps telling me that's what I want, then I'll be really keeping him alive because I'll have to be really engaging in disordered eating to be able to have that small body. And when Ed is telling me all of these things, he then tells me I need to restrict. I should be restricting because my body's so big. It's not. That's what Ed's telling me. That's what my body dysmorphia is telling me, that I need to restrict. And him telling me I need to restrict is such a sneaky way of him getting me back too, because restriction is something that will always lead me to binging. And binging normally leads me to purging. And then that keeps me in that binge, purge, restrict, binge, purge, restrict cycle that's this ongoing hell, and then this shame of trying to get out of the cycle, but I can't ever get out of it because I'm still constantly restricting. I've been struggling with my eating disorder for 15 years, and I have had times of recovery, but I've always tried to manage my recovery, and I've always tried to control my food, and in that way I've been restricting, and now I can see that it's the restricting that's never let me get fully recovered. So on my period, as I'm bloated and don't feel very good, Ed has really been talking to me about my weight and pointing out to me just how much weight I've gained, although I don't know how much I've gained because I've stopped weighing myself. But that's like Ed's main focus right now, is on my growing body, because he knows that I'm not restricting and he knows I'm not purging. And so the way he's trying to get an in back into the grips of my being is by telling me I need to change my size. And the way I'm going to change my size is through restriction. And the way he wants me to do this is to obsess over calories. So calories is something I've always paid so much attention to since I knew what calories were, probably when I was around 13. And I love to track my calories. I have so many journals of like writing down the calories of everything I ate, you know, even like iceberg lettuce. I'd like make sure I wrote that down. And then, you know, with the technology advances, I had my Fitness Pal, and like there was never a day I didn't track my calories. And so this time when I started recovery, it's been like 53 days. I got rid of my Fitness Pal, I got rid of my scale, but still it's just such a tendency to be aware of the calories that I can still feel myself wanting to do it. So I'll feel myself being like, oh, I had oatmeal for breakfast with peanut butter, and I'll start to add it up in my head, and then I'll go to lunch and it's like, what did I have for lunch? Or I'll think about what I want to have for dinner, and I'll like start to think about the numbers. And what's been helping me to not calorie count, because it's such an automatic process that's happened in my brain, and I've talked about this in a past video about the neurotransmitters. It's just a path I've created so much that when I think about food, I think about the calories and I add them up. Not that I'm trying to restrict my calories right now, because like I said, I'm not restricting my calories, but part of me still wants to know how much I'm eating, and I'm really trying not to add them up. So what I'm doing that's been helping is I just say, I'm not counting my calories. So when my brain starts to want to add them up, I just say, I'm not counting my calories, I'm not counting my calories. And then part of my brain's like, but add it up. It was 400 calories for breakfast and 700. And I'm like, I'm not counting my calories, I'm not counting my calories. It's like someone's talking to you and you're a child and you're annoyed. So instead of listening, you're like, blah, 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 blah. Or whatever annoying, disrespectful thing it is that you used to do. It's like I'm trying to do that to Ed. Like, I'm not listening to you, I'm not listening to you, I'm not counting my calories, I'm not counting my calories, I'm not counting my calories. And then I also try to distract myself. So I'll call a friend, because it's much harder to count my calories when I'm having a conversation with a friend. It's not impossible, I can still do it, but that's when I'm using both of those tools of like, listen to what your friend is saying, how can you be helping your friend on the phone? And also when that voice comes in, I'm trying to block it out with that mental, I'm not counting my calories, I'm not counting my calories. And I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I try to use those techniques and I'll still end up counting my calories in my head, kind of guesstimating what they are. Then it's really important that I'm like, okay, you've counted them up, but now you can't do anything about it. You still need to eat however much you want, whatever you want, and you cannot restrict it all. So these are some of the ways I'm trying to combat Ed, and I also want to share how I've been feeling with that ED brain while I'm on my period, because I do feel a lot more heaviness and I do hear his voice a lot more clearly, and I have a harder time separating myself from that voice. Something else I wanted to point out is that when I do separate his voice, I am trying to hold some compassion for the voice. I'm not trying to yell at it. That hasn't really like worked for me in the past. It's just like, okay, I hear you, but I'm not going to make any kind of action based on what you're saying. When I push it away, I feel him come back more, right? It's like if I tell my kid he can't have, I don't know, a toy he wants, he gets a lot more upset than if I'm like, I hear you, I know you want that toy, we're not going to get the toy. That tends to work a lot more than just saying we're not getting the toy. I have to first validate his feelings and say, oh, you really want that new Star Wars toy? Yeah, that looks really cool. There's that button, huh? We're not going to get that toy today. That has a lot better effect than me just saying, nope, no toys. I don't even hear you. Then there's a lot more resistance on his part. Okay, thanks so much for watching. This was kind of all over the place, which just points out the effect that this period is having on my head. It's crazy how foggy I feel. I woke up last night, it's Friday this morning, I teach Friday morning. I woke up this morning and thought it was Monday. And I was asking people like multiple times today, how was their weekend? It hasn't been the weekend yet, Kim. Okay, if you're a subscriber, thank you so much for watching. Your continued support means so much to me. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It's a good boost for me, my ego, but also just reminding me why I'm making these videos is to hopefully help other people and as I share my journey. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, as always, please let me know.